Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to season two of Checking In with Tommy Else. I am your host. Who else but Tommy Else? And unfortunately, we're back. Uh, I had started this show back in March or April well, I guess it was this year. It's been a long year. And it was in response to us going into an official lockdown for what was a pandemic that we had no idea as to how long it would go on for. I was checking in with various people I knew with different backgrounds and who I felt were being affected by it in different ways. And I got a lot of great feedback on it. I think we only did about 8 or 9 interviews, but it was just enough to you know, get an idea, take a temperature on the general populace as to how everyone was handling it and getting through it. And it was interesting to hear what they thought about not only the way it was affecting them, but the way that they anticipated it would go, how much longer it might last, and things like that. So, to go back and watch some of the past episodes has been very eye-opening, very interesting. Um, because now we know what actually happened, and you can see what everybody's expectations were back then. And we were a lot more optimistic that this thing would have been done and over with by now. But here we are. Like I said, I started that back in March, April, somewhere around there. It is now December, and we are still in it. And it's gotten worse. So I thought, well, it's been a while. We should check back in with some of these people, see where they're at now, and see what their where their heads are at, and what's changed, and you know, even asking the same questions over again, but just under the new circumstances. See what people think. So I'm very excited about this first episode today. My guest is Amanda Feeney, and she was with us on the first round of episodes. Amanda is a teacher. Um, she teaches, I want to say second grade. It's in the interview. Uh, so if I'm wrong, it'll be in there. I want to say she teaches second grade. Um, and uh, as we interviewed last April, so at that point she was trying to just navigate getting through the rest of the school year, and I believe that they had started doing online teaching at that point. Now here we find ourselves in December, and I wanted to catch up and see, like, so what happened over the summer as far as planning for the school year. What happened once the school year got started? Are you doing remote classes only? Is it a hybrid? A lot of schools went a lot of different ways. And just really got some great information from Amanda. And uh, to keep it short, uh, Amanda really is someone who you should. This is an interview, I believe, that parents should really pay attention to if your kids are doing any sort of remote learning. Um, I can't imagine how hard it is for teachers during this time. And of all the teachers I know that am friends with and follow on Facebook and things like that, they are all very dedicated and take this job very seriously. And I know that they miss their classes. I see them posting, how much they miss being in a classroom physically with their children, their students, I should say. Um, and it just, I felt that sentiment really rang true in this interview with Amanda. So I'll leave it at that. But again, I thought this was a great talk. I was very happy to talk with Amanda. She's an old friend of mine, um, or a longtime friend. She's much younger than I am. So anyway, without further ado, let's check in with Amanda Feeney. right, I am here with Amanda Feeney. Amanda, how are you?
Hello. I'm okay. Hanging in there. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. The last time we spoke, it was April 23rd.
Whoa, I was wondering. I
Yeah,
was telling Mark, I just said back in the spring. I didn't, man, that was a long time ago. For some
yeah.
reason, I thought it was more like late May, early June.
It was April. It was April 23rd, and you were coming up on the end of the school year. They had pretty much closed down everything
Yeah.
March, and you were still trying to figure out how to navigate through the rest of the school year.
Yeah.
Uh, and at the time, we were being told then it's 2 more weeks. It's 2 more weeks. Now it's 30 days. Now it's another 30 days. And now we find ourselves here in mid
We're,
November
we're still here.
and we're still here.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
my first question is, how have you just in general, you and your family been getting by? How are you guys doing?
I mean, overall, we're okay. I think there are things that we're still a little bummed that we can't do, or things that have to be like altered the way we used to do them. Um, Summer was kind of rough. Um, the summer before was super busy. Both kids did tennis. We went to the pool every day, um, soccer, things like that. So the pool closed and we got a refund on our passes. And then there wasn't tennis for a really long time. Then when they did start to open things back up, kind of the end of June, early July, numbers were so limited that by the time we even thought about like, are we comfortable doing tennis or something else, they were booked.
Yeah.
Um, and other things that we used to do, like just going to a playground or the arboretum, things like that, early in summer weren't really open yet.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of screen. And so I think the four of us we've slipped into some bad habits, and it's like hard to come out of them. Uh, and it was just hard. Like we couldn't go do the things we wanted to do. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We did end up buying a pool. I think that was like the beginning of May. I had said to Mark, I bet you they're going to close the pool. I bet you Sunset Pool is not going to open.
Is it like an above ground pool?
So we bought one of those. I can't remember the name of the brand right now, or Intex. That might not be the right name, but anyway. So it's above ground, but we had to like put it together with like the pipes or whatever. Had to learn all about like chlorine and all that.
Yeah.
It was a good sized pool, and I'm glad we did that because it was like the end of May, early June. They were all gone, and people were all over Facebook and social media saying like,
Oh, I'm
does anybody
sure.
know where I can get a pool? And I heard stories of people driving to like Wisconsin to pick one up or
Yeah, I'm sure.
things like that. So we did have that, and that was something that on the daily it was like go outside, go in the pool. But then of course there were fights every single day in the pool. So so it was an okay summer. I mean, we really tried to make the best of it. We always go to a lake house in Wisconsin with Mark's family for a weekend, and we canceled that. But we still spent time together and still tried to do as much as we were able to. Um, I certainly did not think we'd be in this situation still. So I think when the end of summer came, we were all kind of like, yes, we're gonna like get away from each other and at least be back in school part time.
Yeah.
And then, we aren't. So
Um, and so before we get into the school stuff, how now that we are here in November and you guys have been spending a lot of time with each other, how's everybody in the Feeney house getting on with each other? I mean, has it been challenging
yeah,
or yeah?
yeah.
I mean,
It's just too much togetherness.
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, everybody needs space,
Yeah,
time to themselves, space away from everybody.
yeah.
So There's nothing
And
wrong with it.
it's really hard because we don't, even though our neighborhood has a lot of families and a lot of kids, the ages are a little bit wonky. So there
But,
might be like a set of boys, but like they're all in seventh grade or
right.
eighth grade, or like, so everything's kind of
The
off that way.
ages don't line up for them to hang out with neighborhood kids. Yeah.
Right. So anybody that like Jack would have kind of hung out with during the summer or even during the school year, where they're not hanging out. And same with Maeve. So they have each other, and it's
How are they handling that lack of being able to be social with their friends in person and things like that?
well, I think they're both so different in personality, so they're handling it obviously differently, but then they're showing it differently. So um, Jack tends to be more of a like me, just like more of an introvert. Like I think at first he and I were kind of like, we don't have to leave our house.
Yeah.
Okay, like we'll be fine. Um,
That was
so
me. I was like, all right, well, that's fine with me.
yeah, I mean at first I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that has kind of, what's the word? Not forced, reinforced. We have to stay home. So now that like if we can go out a little, or when we like started to kind of ease up a little bit, he didn't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so then it was like, well, we kind of got to get back out there. In the fall, we did try soccer. We had been told that they weren't going to do it the usual way, where you have a practice during the week and then games on the Saturday. It was just going to be a practice once a week for 2 hours. And they didn't have like parent coaches like usual. It was coaches for like the traveling league.
Yeah.
So when the kids found that out, they were not happy, because we've done a league with them before, and they're just a little bit more intense. It's just not the same as Park District, which they're just not used to. Like they just want to go kick a ball around.
Right.
So Maeve was like, they're so mean. I'm like, but when that day came to go, that was very hard for Jack. And that's when I could see like the effect this has had on him, because he was like, well,
getting too used to being at home and inside
well,
away.
and he hadn't, and Maeve, they hadn't played soccer since fall of 2019, because March was canceled that whole spring. So he was like, I don't want to go. I don't know how to play anymore. What if I'm like, he was being like, I don't know if I'm going to be good anymore. And, that led into a whole different thing. And it's like, well, we do have to go back out there at some point. And I think with Maeve, she can always just kind of busy herself, and she's just a lot more like Mark and a little bit more outgoing. So I think she misses those friendships, but it's not affecting her, I don't think, as deeply. And yeah, with her confidence and things like that.
And what about you? Because you're not getting to see your friends
Right.
and stuff and all that too.
I feel like it goes in waves. So there are times when it feels fine. But then there are times where I'm like, this really sucks. Like I don't need to be out like at a bar or things like that. But like two of my really good friends had babies. One was the end of January, one was middle of February-ish. I have not held their baby since February. Like their kids are going to be 1 probably before the time I can like actually see them again. So that kind of stuff is hard for me, because I can't just drive to someone's house, or they're not coming over here.
My brother had his daughter in February, and I haven't met her yet. So like I haven't gotten to meet these. they're in Portland, which is already an obstacle for me in itself. But even beyond that, it's if I went out there, I'd have to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yes,
she's not even a year old, and I'm same thing. I'm probably looking at her being at least a year old before I finally get a chance, hopefully, to get to meet her and stuff. So yeah, I know, I understand. There's just certain things, and I'm not, I'm not a big go out to the bar kind of guy either and stuff, but I've gotten to the point where it's like, I do miss going out for karaoke once in a while, and it's It's Saturday night, and I'm really get it's too bad that Saturday nights don't have that Saturday night feel to them anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like I would like to, go out to dinner or something, or go, just go hang out with some people at a bar or
Right.
something like that. And I normally, like when you have it available, you don't think about it. When it gets taken away, suddenly you
I
want to do
know.
it. So
Right. Yeah. So it's definitely like an up and down, and we've had for a while there, I feel like in the spring, um, what's it called? House party and things like that, where have you done house party? Have you
no,
heard of it?
no,
Okay. So
enlighten
it's
us.
just another, it's like FaceTime, let's say, or Skype, but you can play games while you're talking.
Okay, all right,
So like my mom, my niece, my nephew, like we'll all get on, and there's like a chips and guac game. It's apples to apples, but they just call it chips and guac. Or there's like drawing, and the other people have to guess. So in the spring, that was awesome. I felt like that kind of gave us at least that connection that we needed. And then at the end of spring, early summer, it was like we were so zoomed out and so
yeah,
Skyped out and all that. Like I didn't want to be on the screen with anybody. So I would say just recently we started doing those things again because we need some kind of
yeah.
social interaction.
Um, okay, so during the summer, um, did you at what point in the summer or early fall did you start knowing what you were going to have to do as far as teaching was going to go? Because I know it was really coming down to a last minute decision for pretty much every school. So as someone on the inside, how,
Mm-hmm.
how did it all unravel for you?
So we actually found out about Jack and Maeve before anything my district had announced. So it was very early July that we had to commit to in person or remote for Jack and Maeve. Um, they had released their plan, what it was going to be like. It was going to be a half day situation. They wouldn't be eating lunch there. So Mark and I kind of went back and forth about that a lot, just weighing the pros and cons. And we ultimately decided that we would be sending them. It seemed like they had a lot of safety things in place and good protocol and all that. And plus, e-learning was not good in the spring, especially for Jack. So we were like, we need to like get him out of the house. He despises school either way, but
Yeah,
I think being there, he enjoys it just a little bit more. So that was early July. Then my district, I think it was end of July that we heard the plan of what it would be. I was supposed to be going back. We would have half days, no lunch there. So I'd have an AM class and a PM class. And then I don't remember the exact date. It was early August. I heard word that Lombard had decided, you know what, we're not even starting. Forget it. Scratch that plan. We're just starting remote. So once I heard that, and then I think the same happened with Elmhurst, I was just waiting for the call, the email, whatever. And then it was like the next day, my
yeah.
district said, like, you know what? Never mind. We're just starting full remote. So it was probably like early August that I
Okay.
knew.
And then, so when the school year started, you started just full remote? And have you at any point gone into hybrid or anything like that since, or has it all been?
No. So my district has remained
And,
remote.
and remind everybody out there watching what grade you teach.
Second.
You're in second grade. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Go ahead.
Yes. So our district started remote. Then I would say probably near the end of September, there was definitely a lot of pressure from probably a smaller group of families, but they were very loud about like, get us back into school, get us back into school.
Hmm.
And I know that was happening all over the area too, but so there were board meetings and just watching all of the data and listening to the CDC. So they decided, it was in October, it was one of the meetings in October, that we would return to school in November. They were doing kind of like a delayed entrance back. And I was slotted to start November 5th.
Okay.
So November 5th, I would be back in the building. I'd have my AM class. Um, and then the PM, just depending on what families chose, I would possibly have another class in the PM, or I would just be doing a remote class in the PM.
Yeah.
And then I think numbers just started to get wild again, and so that got canned.
Yeah,
And
because
now,
that was right around when all the high schools then said, and they pulled the plug on doing anything in school. So
yeah, so we never got to go back. Jack and Maeve have been back. They actually started back right after what's the holiday? It's not
Memorial Day.
Christopher Columbus Day for me. That's a whole other podcast or whatever. But yeah, we had that day off. So they started the next day, that Tuesday. So it was like October 14th or 15th. So they were going in the AM. They got slotted for the AM. So they would go from 8:50 to 11:15. And then in the afternoon, they would have their like asynchronous, they'd either be on a Zoom call with PE, art, or music, or they'd have some type of stuff they were supposed to finish during that time. So they've been back for a while. And then just Friday, it was called like, this is your last day. So starting on Monday, they'll be back full remote.
Yeah. And how do they feel about that?
Jack's not happy.
Yeah.
And Maeve, surprisingly, like she loved both of them. You could just tell in their moods when they got to go back, even though it was for that short time in the morning. You could just tell it was different, just to get out of the house.
Sure.
Maeve is actually kind of happy because she says, well, now I can sleep in more. She's like a total night owl. It will literally be like 11:30 and we'll hear her in her room. We're like, oh, I thought you were asleep like hours ago. So she felt like having to get up and actually go to school. It was a rush and I have to get up so early, even though remote school is going to start at the exact same time.
Well, no travel time, you know.
Right. So she can just roll on downstairs to her little work area.
Yeah.
But like I said, she's just a little bit more go with the flow.
So tell me about what it's like to do remote learning with second graders. So you do, let's kind of just walk through like an AM class. Like, how do you wrangle a class of second graders together and teach them anything online? I mean, I wouldn't know where to begin. I don't know how I would do it.
Well, I mean, so our district, once they announced like we're starting full remote, we had a whole week of meetings, trainings for all of this new online stuff that we would be using, a lot of plan time with our teams. So I was grateful for that because I think if we would have just been like thrown in, like that would have, I mean, it was terrible.
This is for all of you. None of you have had to do this before.
And I should also mention, this is totally different than what we did in the spring. That was like, oh my gosh, like throw anything together that you can. There wasn't really any live teaching.
Yeah.
Like I would have Zoom meetings with my class, but that was more of like, hey, let's check in. I'll read you a book. Like this is legit. I'm teaching. I like had to set up a classroom. Yeah. So it's super hard. It's not ideal. It's been very stressful. I would say.
What are some of the difficulties that you find in doing it?
I guess the main thing that's difficult is like just not like the proximity. Like you can't be next to someone if they need help. The kids can't work in groups, small groups together, partner work. You have no idea if they're actually really listening to you.
That was going to be my other question, is how do you know if they're really, like, do you feel like they're engaged? Do you feel like you're just getting a few of them that are paying attention and doing, what they're supposed to? Yeah. And how does like grading and stuff like that work? I mean, is there just assignments that it's going off of pretty much?
So this has been another big discussion, and actually I had already been on a committee to kind of revamp the report card. Yeah. So what we did is we looked at our current report card and then like other second grade teachers and I kind of talked through each part and said, okay, is this something we can actually observe and gather data on to
Yeah.
give a grade? So the report card just came out last week, and there were a lot of things that were just had to be marked NA. And we just communicated to the families, like, this is just, it's not observable via
It's not,
Zoom.
yeah, there's no way to gauge anything
Yeah.
and be fair and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
So
And even with the stuff that I can grade, like an online assessment, or any of the work that they complete for me each day, yeah, you're getting an idea, but you also don't know what help has been given.
as an educator, let me ask you this. So when you go through second grade, you go and you are there to learn certain fundamentals and things that will take you into the next grade and then prepare you for the work that you'll do there. Do you think with the online format and given the typical school calendar year, you can still accomplish those goals so that they're prepared for the next grade? Or do you think that it's just not feasible with the restrictions that you have against you?
Ooh, hard-hitting questions. I think there are going to be, there's a good chunk that I do believe are going to be able to get that core, the core standards and those lessons and be able to move on confidently. And I think everyone all over the country is going to have some kind of deficit from all of this. But I do
Yeah,
believe there's a solid core of my class that, like, they're getting it.
good.
But what's really disheartening, I guess is the right word, is those kiddos that just, they would make more progress if we were in the classroom.
Sure. And some
Yeah.
need that one-on-one, they need just a little bit of extra attention, sometimes just leaning over their shoulder and pointing something out
Yeah.
and saying, try doing this,
Right.
might take you 2 seconds in person, but it's something that you don't even know to do it in this situation because you can't see every little angle of everybody. Like with me, I'm treating people online, and even with that, I mean, I can see them on the camera and I can critique them to a degree, but if I was there in person and had a three-dimensional view of things, I could say things better, I could show them easier. So
Right.
it's very hard in this two-dimensional world we're trying to teach
Right.
people. So
Yes. I do think that, those students who are going to be just fine, they're just great at adapting to kind of any situation they're given. But those students who are struggling already, and now
yeah,
you have them in their home, some of them in their bedrooms, like, they're distracted, they don't want to really be there.
yeah,
Those are the kids that I really worry about. And I actually also kind of worry about those students who already know a lot of this stuff. Like, they're bored out of their mind. And, those, you can't forget about those students. And you don't want those students to feel like they're not valued. Um,
right,
and that's also tricky on Zoom because a lot of the times you can form groups and you can say, like, okay, this group's going to, like, differentiate. You can say this group's going to work on this is going to work on that. And that's just been kind of hard to figure out on Zoom. We
sure,
have breakout rooms, so I can put them into groups and then send them off. But then, of course, I'm getting like chats from other kids and, like, they were mean to me. This kid said an inappropriate word. They weren't talking about anything that we're supposed to be doing. They were showing their toys in the camera. So there's that whole element.
yeah, they're still second graders. Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
yeah,
So
that's another, yeah, I can't get around that.
right. So the things that we've seen have kind of worked lately. Those students who I know need that, like, challenge, I'll, like, assign something to them in Seesaw. It's the program that we use. I'll teach, like, let's say the math lesson. I'll kind of show them the skill, and then they know, because I've, like, privately chatted them, like, all right, you did that on your own. You're fine. You go to Seesaw and complete that challenge work or whatever. So I've
Yeah,
started doing that because otherwise they're, like, just sitting in their room, like, okay, I finished this 10 minutes ago, and she's still
right.
teaching, like, so that's been hard.
Well, I'm sure that's a tough balance, to
Yeah,
try to maintain. How many people, well, other people, how many students are in a typical class that you're teaching online?
I have 26, so
Oh,
that's been fun. Yeah,
oh, that's a lot.
it is a
That's
lot.
a lot,
It's a
man.
lot.
Wow. Well, God love you. Uh,
Yeah. It's there are days that it feels so successful, and I'm like, okay, I think we made some progress today. And then I have days like I did last Thursday where it was not a good day.
yeah,
Just leave it at that.
yeah.
It's hard. And I have to say it, even though, like, the first time you asked if I would do this with you, I was all worried, like, well, I don't know. Like, what if I don't want to get in trouble with my district? Um, it's very, I'm very aware that there are other people in the room. It's not just a student. Like, some of them are in their own room. Their parent has set them up in a area where they can't be distracted. But that's not possible in every situation,
Sure.
and that's
Yeah.
fine. But there's always this, like, in the back of my mind, like, just more of an insecurity on my behalf, because,
It's
like,
like
I
having,
mess up all the time. Like, there are times when I'm doing something on the document camera and I'm looking at it thinking, I don't remember how to teach this. And in the classroom, I would just be so silly about it and like, oh yeah. But I feel like there's still a part of me that can't be me.
there's
And
like it's like if there were like 10 parents sitting in the back of the classroom while you're teaching. I mean, yeah, you're going to be
yeah.
self-conscious about it and everything. And yeah, you don't know who's back behind the camera when the kids are there and
Hmm.
stuff. So I'm sure. Yeah, I even just when I train people, I generally don't like, if it's the person's spouse is like sitting in the room or
Yeah.
something
It's
else.
weird. It's uncomfortable.
I like it just me and that person, and
Yeah.
you know. But I get that. I get that. And so, how about some of your fellow teachers? Have they pretty much been having the same experience you have had? I mean, have you guys? I'm sure you guys have swapped stories, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. So my team and I, we have to meet twice a week for our PLC time where we plan and we go over data. But we meet at other times too, just to, like you said, kind of
Ben.
compare notes. This did
Yeah.
not work. This flopped. Oh, this was good for me. Just constantly kind of trying to figure out how can we be the best for these kids and what can we do, because this is just a sucky situation.
It's tough because, like you said, it's there's some kids that will manage and be okay
Mm-hmm.
under these conditions. There's kids that need more help than others. There's kids that need to be pushed harder than others because some of this is easy for them.
Right.
Then you throw in the lack of socialization, and then you worry about, I worry about, like, if I had a kid right now going through all this, how does this affect their development?
Yeah.
Not only in school but as people, and it's a very, I mean, for us, the 7 months, since you and I last did one of these shows, that 7 months has been a long time for us. But remember what 7 months was like when you were in second grade. I mean, that's a long time, and
Yeah.
so for them to be going through this is just, I don't envy them. I worry about the long-term effect it's going to have on some of these kids.
Yes.
And but at the same time, what are you supposed to do? I mean,
Right.
I think everybody's doing the best they can. It sure as hell sounds like you are, and everyone you're working with. So,
Yeah.
uh,
I think, well, social emotional things have always been super important to me as a teacher and as a parent. Um, so even when COVID wasn't a thing, we always at school have social emotional lessons. We have a program called Second Step where we talk about feelings and how to manage those strong feelings and things like that.
that's great.
Now we're required. One of the things that has to be built into our lessons each day is um, like a morning meeting, a chunk of time where that's what you're talking about. You're talking about, like, how are you doing, and
Yeah,
teaching the kids. We call it, it's a zones of regulation for the younger kids. I think they might do a few different things in the intermediate grades, but there's colors. So it's blue, yellow, green, and red. Red is like you're in a rage, you're just furious, you're angry. Yellow is frustrated, you're starting to get to dread. Blue is like sad, anxious, sleepy, bored, and then green is like, I'm good to go. So we have
Right.
spent so much time on that. Every Friday they fill out a survey saying like, what color do I think I was this week? What color was I for at home as well? Because we also want to check on those kids. There are kids who really need to be in school, not only for academic reasons, but home life is not.
Home life sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they need that break. Yeah, I understand. There were plenty of times where, as much as I didn't like school, I was glad to at least have that to get to not be at home some
Yeah.
days. So I understand. And what would you say the average color you hear the most has been since school started this year?
Honestly, like green. And I don't know if that's an age thing, just being 7 and 8. They have been so, uh, I don't know. I let them talk. I let them, like, we all come off of mute and it's so, like, for me, I'm like, I can't hear anything anybody's saying, but they love it.
I I think part of that comes from, like, you and I never went through this before, and we have a very definitive idea of the way school should be and everything. And by second grade, they're still pretty new to the school thing, so they're not cemented as much as we are. And so in our heads, we're like, "How are you doing this?" But for
yeah,
them, it's different than what they've done. But from kindergarten to second grade, it's changed. Yeah, but I mean, they weren't like 10 years into doing the same thing
right.
either, you know.
Yeah. And I've noticed we actually had to have a little talk yesterday because we have to record on a spreadsheet anytime a student reports red, even if it's internet connection was making me red. We
Right.
still are reporting it. So I did have a talk to them with them, and I said, all right, let's kind of think about that. Like, with everybody in the country doing Zooms or whatever, like, yeah, there's internet problems all the time. I think it was 2 weeks ago, I could not keep a connection. It kept kicking me out. So, like, I'm sure chaos ensued as soon as I got kicked out. But so I just said to them yesterday, let's really think about, like, does that mean you were red for the whole week? Like, this means you were mad, like you wanted to punch something. Like, I said that could maybe be more of a yellow. So
Yeah, help
I
them
would
get
say the
better.
most that I get reported is I didn't sleep well, internet Chromebook problems, or I was bored. But for the most part, truly, it has been a lot of green, which is great.
Good. Well, I really am glad, and I think that's awesome that you guys make checking in on their emotional status a priority, because
Yeah.
that is, I mean, because if that isn't if that's not under some level of control, you'll never get anywhere with trying to teach them anything. I mean,
100%. Yes.
yeah, it starts there, and then you build off of that. So that's very good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm very encouraged by a lot of things you're telling me. I think that's awesome. It sounds like I know you're all kind of flying by the seat of your pants and doing your damnedest and
Yeah.
everything, but I think given the circumstances and the pressure,
Yeah.
everything, because I'm sure there's plenty of that goes along with this. It sounds like you're doing a great job. I'm very happy and proud of you. So
Thanks.
you're
Yeah,
doing good.
I feel like we're into a routine at least. This is not what any of us would wish for or want to be happening right now, but we're
Sure.
doing the
Yeah.
best that we can.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
good. Couple closing questions here for you, and
Yes.
then I'll let you go.
Okay.
So here we are. It's November. They say that they have some sort of a vaccine now that's supposedly able to help about 90% of the people, or something. It's worked on, or something like that. So that's good. I know Monday they're talking about doing another major shutdown for Illinois. Um, I think 6 a.m. is when it starts. Um, and if we go, they're saying it could be next spring, next summer before, we get back. Um, how are you mentally dealing with the long game here? Like, do you think, like, I mean, it sounds like you're pretty much taking it a day at a time right now. Would that be safe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Ooh, okay. I do have to say that I was definitely one of those people last February that was like, calm down. It's
Yeah.
fine. We're going to be fine. I'm still going to Florida on my spring break. Um, and then when Mark, and you know Mark, like I'm the like irrational, like let's worry kind of person. And
Right.
I was
Yeah.
like, we're going to Florida. I'll bring wipes. I don't care. For the airplane. And he was like, do you think we should drive? I'm like, wait, what? No, you're getting worried over this? So at first I think I was in all sorts of like, but we'll be fine. Like I didn't see, I could never have imagined things would have gone the way they've gone and been handled the way they've been handled. So I would say when I found out we weren't going back at all last year, that hit me. I was like, wait, this is really serious. And then when a coworker said to me, okay, man, I just want to prep you, like we probably won't be back in the fall either. That really hit me too. So I feel like kind of having that thrown at me then,
Hmm.
I was able to process it a little bit. Um, I think now just seeing how things are going and this second wave coming through, I don't, I'm just already telling myself, like, I will never meet these kids in person,
Yeah.
which I hate. And if I really were to dwell on it, I'd get emotional over it. But I don't,
Well, even if you never meet them in person, I guarantee you that they will always remember you. So, because this is a very formative part of their
yeah,
life,
yeah,
and definitely a different way that they're going about doing school and everything.
yeah,
At this point, I'm just of the mind of, it's going to be over when it's over. I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
they can tell me 30 more days, or we've got a vaccine or whatever.
yeah,
I don't think anybody at this point really knows what's going to happen, and all we can do is navigate it the best we can and do the best we can with it.
right.
Um, so I'm going to ask you two last questions. They're the same last two that I asked you at the end of the last time we
Oh
talked.
no, I don't remember. Okay.
Um, so the first one, since we last spoke in April, since then, what would you say has been the
Oh God.
most most difficult part of the whole COVID pandemic for you, Amanda Feeney?
Oh man. It's like radio silence right now.
Well,
I
you
don't
you don't have to rank it absolute number one, but you can
I
give
know.
you can give you can give me one of your bigger ones.
Honestly, I think it's the watching my kids struggle, my own children,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
not being able to have the opportunities to do things that like they
Hmm.
would have.
Yeah.
I'll be fine. Like, yeah, this sucks. I miss my friends or whatever, but
Sure.
yeah, I guess it's more the worry and the anxiety about like how they're doing,
Yeah.
especially Jack.
Yeah. I can't relate to it from having I don't have kids obviously and stuff, but I'm also kind of the mind of like, look, I'll be fine. I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm more like worried about everyone else being okay and stuff. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then finally, in all of this that's gone on, what has been the best part of it? What's something good that has come of this?
I think I might have said this in the spring, and
That's fine.
if I if I
If
did, then
if the answer is
it
the same,
rings true
the
and it's
answer's the same.
important. So I think it's just made us it no, it's made me. I can't speak for everybody else. Um, it's just made me kind of approach things in life a little differently. Like, um, I feel like I was already getting a little bit more like this, just getting older, but I just kind of I've like written people letters. Like take time to write somebody a letter, like an actual letter, or um just doing things in the house that like maybe we were always too rushed to do. It's like, oh, we can't do that right now. We're too rushed for that. Like go build a fort, or like right now our house is a complete disaster, which it kind of already always is, but like just in ways where like right now Maeve has like stuff taped all over the walls, like she's making a word wall, and it was like, make a word wall, like just
Yeah.
yeah. I think that kind of stuff has been like, who cares? Put tape
Good.
on the wall. I don't care. So
Good. Well,
yeah.
your answer back in the spring was that you were spending more time with your family, and that
Okay.
was a good thing. But
Yeah.
and I'm sure it still is. But
Sometimes.
but that's good though. No, and I agree. And I've also known you a long time, and like you said, you tend to be a little more on the anxious side of situations, and uh, even when I talked to you 6 7 months ago, but even more so now. I mean, you definitely seem to be cool, got it together, feeling all right. I mean, because you're not real good at like hiding that. So
No,
I know
no,
you're not BSing me here.
no.
So
And I don't know where the shift happened because I am a ginormous spaz about pretty much everything. And there have been people in work who have been spazzes about things, and I don't mean that in a mean way. But when I hear them comment about like, something about the report card, it's not that I don't care, and I hope it doesn't come off that way. We have to really think about like what's important right now. Are
it's
these
keeping,
kids coming to school? Yes, they're showing up on Zoom. We're
yeah,
making connections. I have to think about those um what's the word? Wins, I guess.
yeah.
Instead of like I can't deal with like, oh no, they're not going to be able to write the way they would a
Well,
normal year. This isn't a normal year. So like
right. Exactly. And it sounds like what you're doing is you're keeping a perspective on things to say, like, look, no, this isn't ideal, but we're doing the best we can. Nobody can ask any more of that from you.
right.
And I'd say the best you can looks like you're doing pretty good. I mean, all things that are considered.
We'll see.
Really, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm really impressed with a lot of the stuff you've told me today. So good on you and good on everyone else around you who's, banding together to do this because as bad as I know a lot of parents want their kids to go back into school and everything, and they all have plenty of good reasons for it and
Right.
everything. The situation is just that they can't, and and you got to do the best you can with it. And it sounds like you guys are doing it. So, I don't have kids, but I thank you anyway for the work that you're doing out there. My
Thank you.
sister's in school, and I know other.
Yeah, that's right. Seventh grade now? Is that right?
She is in eighth grade.
No, she's not. No,
I think she is. She
no.
starts high school next year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get me started. But yeah. Um, well, I won't take any more of your time. Thank you very much for being here and talking with
Sure.
me and sharing with everybody your perspective on things. And maybe in another 6 months we'll check in, but maybe we'll
Yeah,
have something better. We'll have some better news and
I hope
everything.
so.
I was hoping the next time I checked in with you, it would be to find out how it all went now that it's over. But
Yeah,
here we are, and we're still in the midst.
we're
Not
still
only
here.
of it, it's getting worse seemingly now. So, but we'll all keep a good thought, and I think again we're blessed that you and everyone out there who's in your position are doing the jobs you are. So thank you again for towing the line for everybody there.
Well, thank you for saying that because, we don't always get nice compliments like that. So I appreciate it.
Oh, of course. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us, and
Of
you be
course.
safe and take care.
You too.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So there you go. That's Amanda Feeney. Uh, you know, a frontline worker as far as I'm concerned. She's out there doing her best, trying to get kids not just occupied during the day, but legitimately help them learn and make the forward steps they need to graduate to the next grade and have a successful education. And there's a whole lot of Amanda Feeney's out there not enough, but there's a lot that are trying just as much as she is to make that happen. And I think it's something that we should all take uh, great appreciation for. So I don't have kids, but if I did, I would be happy to know that people like Amanda are out there working as hard as they are, trying to make the most of this situation. And I hope that someday they and future students can all get back to something closer to what we once knew as far as in class education goes. So, thank you again for tuning in. I will be back with other people who I've interviewed before back in the spring. And I'm hoping to get a few new people in on this too, and get some fresh views as well. So again, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.